The Academy training hall was wide and bright, filled with cadets from many alien species. Rows of seats curved around the center where the combat tests were held. The air buzzed with excitement. Today was the day when each cadet had to show their skill in handling a weapon. The instructor, a tall reptilian alien with scales that gleamed under the lights, raised his voice so that everyone could hear. Today, each of you will prove your worth. You will show me your strength and your weapon knowledge. No excuses. His eyes moved from one cadet to the next. One by one, alien cadets stepped forward, each showing off their weapons. A towering insectoid pulled out a plasma blade that burned with a green glow. The crowd of students clapped and hissed in approval. A feathered avian cadet activated a wrist cannon, firing a burst of energy into the air. Sparks lit the ceiling. The other cadets cheered. The instructor nodded with satisfaction. Good, next, he called. Every species wanted to prove they were better than the rest. Every demonstration was about power and precision. When the human's name was called, silence fell for a moment. The cadets turned their eyes toward the small figure that rose from the back row. He was just one human among dozens of alien students. Shorter, lighter, and without any glowing weapon strapped to his body, he walked calmly to the center of the hall. The instructor narrowed his eyes. Human, show me your weapon. His voice carried both command and mockery. He doubted that the human had anything impressive to show. The human lifted his empty hands. I don't have one, he said quietly. His words echoed in the hall. The alien cadets burst into laughter. The insectoid slammed its sharp legs on the ground in amusement. The avian tilted its head and whistled mockingly. A heavy armored student from a stone-skinned species rumbled in lag, that shook the floor. Pathetic, someone shouted. The instructor's lips curved into a smirk. You came unarmed to a weapon test? Do humans not understand rules? Or do you think you are too clever for this academy, he asked. The human did not argue. He simply stood in the circle, calm and thoughtful. He looked around, his eyes scanning the room, the seats, the desks, the chairs stacked along the wall, the wires that ran across the panels. The cadets frowned, wondering what he was doing. The instructor folded his arms, impatient. If you have nothing to show, you will fail. Simple as that, he declared. But the human finally spoke again, his tone soft yet steady. Give me a moment, he said. The laughter grew louder, aliens whispering. What is he planning? Does he think he can trick the test? One cadet muttered, another hissed. Humans are strange, always pretending. The human walked slowly to a desk at the edge of the hall. The instructor raised a brow but did not stop him. The crowd leaned forward with curiosity. Instead of pulling out a hidden weapon, the human gripped the desk and pulled hard. Wood cracked, metal groaned, bolts popped loose. He ripped the leg of the desk clean off. The sound echoed through the hall. Silence replaced laughter for a heartbeat. The cadets blinked, surprised at his sudden strength. He sat down with the broken pieces, examining them carefully. His fingers moved with focus, tying and bending, twisting metal and wood together. A sharp sound of scraping filled the air. Aliens leaned to watch, whispering again. The instructor frowned now, his eyes narrowing. What are you doing, human? He asked with annoyance. The human did not answer. He kept working, pulling a wire from the side of the desk, stretching it, testing its strength. He tied it across the bent wooden frame, slowly shaping something. The crowd began to recognize. Eyes the form. Whispers spread like fire. Is he making a weapon? One cadet gasped. Another shook his head in disbelief. Impossible. He cannot build something here. Not from nothing. The instructor tapped his claw against the floor, anger rising, but still curious. You have 1 minute, he growled. The human nodded silently, his hands still moving quickly, his face calm but his eyes sharp. The laughter had died down now, replaced by an uneasy quiet. Even the mocking cadets began to watch closely. The avian leaned its long neck forward, feathers ruffled with nervous energy. The stone-skinned student stopped laughing, shifting uncomfortably. Piece by piece, the shape became clear. A bow, crude but functional, made from the leg of the desk and the pulled wire. The human tightened it, tested the pull, and nodded. The silence in the hall was heavy. The instructor's smirk faltered for the first time. He tilted his head, his scaled brow furrowed. The human rose to his feet, holding the bow in his hand. It was simple, primitive, and nothing like the glowing blades or energy cannons of the aliens, but there was a strange aura around it, a reminder that weapons do not have to shine to be deadly. The cadets whispered again, this time not mocking but confused. What is that? Why does it feel dangerous? The instructor cleared his throat, trying to regain control. So, you made a toy. Is this your great weapon? He said with a sneer, though his voice lacked some of its earlier confidence. The human stood tall, his voice calm. It is enough, he said. The hall fell silent again, the aliens waiting for what would happen next. The laughter was gone, the whispers uneasy. For the first time, they were curious, maybe even a little afraid. The instructor's eyes narrowed. He raised one clawed finger, pointing toward the ceiling. Fine, human, you want to play? Then prove it. We will sum. If your primitive stick can do more than make fools laugh. The human only nodded once, holding the bow steady in his hands. The hook of the story was set, and the test was only beginning. The bow rested in the human's hands, strange and simple. Yet the room felt heavier than before. The instructor's sharp eyes studied him with a mix of annoyance and curiosity. Enough of this game, the instructor barked, his deep voice echoing. Prepare the first target. A humming sound filled the hall as a small practice drone lifted into the air, its wings buzzing with energy. The drone's armor glowed faintly as it zipped from side to side, fast and agile. The aliens leaned forward, many smirking again, convinced the human's toy would fail. The human stood silent, not rushing. He touched the string of the bow and tested its pull. His eyes tracked the movement of the drone. His breathing slowed. The class grew quieter, waiting for him to act. The insectoid cadet clicked its mandibles in laughter. He will miss. That string cannot hold against speed like that. The avian whistled mockingly. Maybe humans just like to pretend. The stone-skinned cadet folded his massive arms, growling low with amusement, but the human ignored them, his focus unshaken. He reached for the broken desk leg he had sharpened earlier, its end rough yet pointed. He placed it against the string, pulled it back. The bow creaked under the strain. The instructor crossed his arms. Fire or fail, he ordered. The drone darted across the room at lightning speed, weaving and spinning, its armor glowing brighter. The human's eyes followed, sharp, calculating every movement. Then, without hesitation, he released. The arrow sliced through the air with a whistle, faster than anyone expected. The crowd gasped as it struck the drone square in its center. The impact sent sparks flying as the drone spun wildly. Before crashing into the wall, the hall fell silent. No one laughed now. Every cadet's eyes widened, disbelief frozen on their faces. The instructor's smirk vanished, his scaled jaw tightening. Impossible, he muttered under his breath. He had expected a weak failure, not precision, not force, yet the broken desk leg had pierced metal armor. The human lowered the bow, calm as ever, his face unreadable. He did not cheer, he did not boast. He simply prepared the bow again, his silence more powerful than any words. Whispers spread quickly among the cadets. Did you see that? He hit it with one shot. No weapon, no tech, only wooden string. Fear mixed with awe in their voices. The instructor raised his hand sharply. Silence, he commanded. Though his tone carried less authority than before, he waved toward the control panel. Release the next drone. Make it stronger. Another drone rose, larger this time, its frame reinforced with armor plating, glowing with blue shields. It moved even faster, zigzagging unpredictably, its sensors locked on the human, ready to dodge. The cadets watched with bated breath. Many expected failure this time, but they could not look away. The human crouched slightly, his fingers running over the bowstring. He broke another piece of furniture, tearing out a sharper shard of metal from the side of a chair. He shaped it quickly against the floor, the scraping sound echoing, making alien cadets flinch. He tied it to the shaft of another arrow, crude yet deadly. The avian cadet whispered nervously, "He is adapting." The insectoid hissed, its mocking tone gone. "He learns too quickly." The drone zipped around, glowing shields shimmering, waiting for its target. The instructor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Let us see if you can hit this one, human," he said, his voice low, but there was no laughter in it now. The human pulled back the string, his muscles straining. The bow groaned, the air tightened with tension. For a moment, the hall was completely silent, every cadet holding their breath. Then he released. The arrow shot forward like lightning, cutting through the air. The drone swerved to dodge, but the arrow bent slightly mid-flight. Guided by the human's precise aim and instinct, it slammed directly into the drone's shield. For a heartbeat, the shield held, glowing brightly. Then it shattered with a burst of energy. The arrow pierced through the armor and pinned the drone against the far wall. Sparks rained down. Silence filled the room again. The cadets stared, their eyes wide, their mouths open. The instructor's claws dug into the floor slightly, his scales shifting nervously. He had underestimated the human. The human lowered the bow again, breathing steady, his eyes calm. He looked at the instructor without fear, without pride, simply waiting. The silence was broken by the whisper of one cadet. He built a weapon from nothing, and it destroys drones built for war. Another whispered, if humans can do this with trash, what can they do with real weapons? The atmosphere changed. The hall no longer filled with mockery, but with unease, fear, and respect. The instructor finally spoke, his voice lower, quieter, but firm. Enough, he said. Though his eyes betrayed uncertainty, he had wanted to humiliate the human, but instead, he had shown the entire academy something far more dangerous. The human only nodded, his bow still in his hands, waiting silently for the next command. The cadets shifted nervously, for the first time realizing that the smallest, quietest being in the hall was perhaps the most dangerous one of them all, and deep inside, even the instructor began to wonder, what kind of species can turn furniture into death? The human gave no answer, only silence, but his silence was louder than any weapon. The smell of burnt metal lingered in the air. Sparks still fell from the broken drone pinned against the wall. Alien cadets sat frozen in their seats, their eyes fixed on the human holding the crude bow. The silence was heavy, so heavy that even the buzzing lights above seemed louder than before. The instructor's claws tapped against the floor, his reptilian face tense. He had not expected this. He had wanted to humiliate the human, to prove that primitive species had no place among the academy elites, but instead the human had done the unthinkable. Again, the instructor barked finally. Though his voice carried less certainty than before, he gestured sharply, and the control panel whirred. Another drone activated, larger than the last, its body sleek with layered armor, twin cannons mounted on its sides. This was not just a training drone. This one was used to test advanced cadets. The cadets gasped, whispers spreading fast. That is not fair, one hissed. He is just human. He should not face that, another muttered. But others leaned forward with sharp interest. Let us see if he can do it again. The human did not protest. He simply adjusted the bow in his hand, his face calm but his eyes sharp. Every movement showed patience, as if he had done this kind of thing 1,000 times before. The drone lifted into the air, its cannons glowing, targeting systems humming. Its body zigzagged across the hall, faster and smarter than the earlier drones. The instructor smirked faintly, trying to regain control. You cannot hit this one, human. No primitive stick can match Academy steel. But the human only crouched, searching the floor for better materials. He broke another chair apart, this time tearing out a strip of reinforced metal. His hands moved quickly, shaping it into a sharper arrowhead. The sound of scraping metal against the ground made cadets flinch, sparks flying as he carved the edge. The avian cadet whispered nervously, feathers puffed up. He is making it stronger. The insectoid clicked its mandibles uneasily. He is adapting to every challenge. The human finished shaping the arrow. He tied the sharp metal tip firmly with strands of torn wire. It was crude, ugly, but deadly. His calm face did not change. The drone zoomed across the hall, firing a warning burst of energy into the wall near him. Smoke filled the air. The cadets flinched, but the human did not move. He raised the bow, drew the string back. The wood creaked under the tension. His muscles tensed, eyes locked on the moving machine. The instructor leaned forward, expecting failure. The cadets leaned forward, holding their breath. The human released. The arrow shot forward like lightning. The drone twisted at the last second. The arrow sliced through the air, grazing the armor. Sparks flew, but the drone was not destroyed. It turned its cannons toward him, preparing another blast. Gasps erupted from the seats. The instructor smiled darkly. See, human, your tricks end here, he growled. But the human had already moved. He picked up another piece of broken desk, sharpening it quickly, his hands fast, his focus unbroken, while the drone charged its cannons. He crafted a second arrow, this one heavier, tipped with jagged metal. The stone-skinned cadet muttered, his deep voice uneasy. He does not stop. He never gives up. The drone fired, a bolt of energy slammed into the floor near him. The ground shook. Dust rose into the air. But the human did not flinch. He raised the bow again, pulled the string harder than before, his knuckles white with pressure, his eyes tracking every movement of the drone. Time slowed in that moment, every cadet's eyes wide. The drone swerved, shields glowing, cannons humming, and then he released. The arrow flew faster than the first, heavier, steadier. It cut through the dust cloud. The drone tried to dodge, but the arrow smashed directly into its shield. For a heartbeat, the shield blazed, glowing bright blue. Then it cracked with a deafening crack. The arrow tore through, piercing the core. The drone exploded in a shower of sparks, fragments crashing to the ground. The hall shook with the blast. Cadets shielded their faces. When the smoke cleared, the human still stood there, bow in hand, calm, unmoved, as if nothing had happened. The room erupted in whispers, not mocking now, but fear, awe, respect. He destroyed it. No one else has done that, with only trash. The instructor's jaw tightened, his smirk gone, his eyes unreadable. He tried to mask his unease. Luck, he spat, though even he did not sound convinced. The human said nothing. He only set another broken piece of furniture aside, preparing as if the test was not yet over. His silence was heavy, powerful, a silence that spoke louder than pride, louder than arrogance. For the first time, the cadets looked at him not as weak, not as primitive, but as dangerous, truly dangerous. And in the shadows of their thoughts, a question began to rise, a question none dared to ask out loud. If a human could turn desks and chairs into weapons powerful enough to destroy Academy drones, what could humans do with real weapons, with warships, with armies? The human lifted his bow again, ready, and the silence of the hall grew darker, filled with suspense. The test was far from finished, and everyone knew it. The smoke from the destroyed drone still drifted through the Academy hall. Broken metal scattered across the floor. Cadets whispered among themselves, their voices trembling with both excitement and unease. The human stood in the center, bow in hand, his calm face untouched by fear. The instructor's lead jaw clenched tightly, his pride wounded. He had wanted to break the human spirit, but instead the human was breaking his authority. He snapped his clawed fingers toward the control panel, his voice sharp. Bring out the advanced drone. Gasps filled the hall. Advanced drones were not meant for beginners, not even for intermediate cadets. They were used only during final exams. These machines were faster, stronger, equipped with layered armor and adaptive shields. The hum grew louder as the advanced drone powered up. Its tall frame glowed with blue circuits. Multiple cannons swiveled. Sensors scanned the room. Its wings spread with metallic clicks. The air vibrated as it rose into position. The cadets shifted in their seats nervously. The avian's feathers ruffled in fear. This is too much, it whispered. The insectoid clicked its mandibles uneasily. The human will be crushed. The stone-skinned cadet rumbled. Or maybe he will surprise us again. The human crouched low, his fingers touched the broken pieces of furniture scattered around him. He picked up a long metal strip, bent and sharp at one edge. His hands moved quickly, scraping, carving, twisting wire tightly around it. The sound of metal grinding echoed, sparks lit the floor. The cadets watched in silence. The drone moved suddenly, firing a burst of energy at the wall near the human. Dust and debris rained down. The hall shook, but the human did not flinch, his eyes locked on the machine, his movements steady. The instructor sneered, trying to mask his unease. You cannot build fast enough, human. This is the end of your little show. But the human said nothing, his silence louder than words. He tied the sharpened strip of metal to a sturdy shaft of wood, the crude arrow now heavier, sharper, deadlier. He tested it, pulling it against the bowstring. The wood groaned but held. The drone darted forward, weaving in unpredictable patterns. Its sensors locked on him, cannons glowing. The hum of energy filled the room. Cadets leaned forward, hearts racing. The avian whispered, he cannot hit it.
The smoke from the destroyed drone still drifted through the Academy hall. Broken metal scattered across the floor. cadets whispered among themselves, their voices trembling with both excitement and unease. The human stood in the center, bow in hand, his calm face untouched by fear, the instructor's scaled jaw clenched tightly, his pride wounded. He had wanted to break the human spirit, but instead the human was breaking his authority. He snapped his clawed fingers toward the control panel. His voice sharp, "Bring out the advanced drone." Gasps filled the hall. Advanced drones were not meant for beginners, not even for intermediate cadets. They were used only during final exams. These machines were faster, stronger, equipped with layered armor and adaptive shields. The hum grew louder as the advanced drone powered up. Its tall frame glowed with blue circuits, multiple cannons swiveled, sensors scanned the room. Its wings spread with metallic clicks, the air vibrated as it rose into position. The cadets shifted in their seats nervously, the avian's feathers ruffled in fear. "This is too much," it whispered. The insectoid clicked its mandibles uneasily. "The human will be crushed," the stone-skinned cadet rumbled. "Or maybe he will surprise us again." The human crouched low. His fingers touched the broken pieces of furniture scattered around him. He picked up a long metal strip, bent and sharp at one edge. His hands moved quickly, scraping, carving, twisting wire tightly. Around it, the sound of metal grinding echoed, sparks lit the floor. The cadets watched in silence. The drone moved suddenly, firing a burst of energy at the wall near the human. Dust and debris rained down. The hall shook, but the human did not flinch. His eyes locked on the machine, his movement steady. The instructor sneered, trying to mask his unease. "You cannot build fast enough, human. This is the end of your little show." But the human said nothing, his silence louder than words. He tied the sharpened strip of metal to a sturdy shaft of wood, the crude arrow now heavier, sharper, deadlier. He tested it, pulling it against the bowstring. The wood groaned but held. The drone darted forward, weaving in unpredictable patterns. Its sensors locked on him, cannons glowing. The hum of energy filled the room. Cadets leaned forward, hearts racing. The avian whispered, "He cannot hit it. It is too fast." The insectoid hissed, "He will try, but he will fail." The stone-skinned cadet muttered low, "I am not so sure anymore." The human raised the bow slowly, his arms steady, his eyes tracking the drone's every move. Time seemed to stretch, the hall silent, every cadet holding their breath. The drone fired, an energy bolt shot toward him. He rolled aside, fast and fluid, dust rising. He came up on one knee, bowstring drawn to its limit, his eyes narrowed. He released. The arrow cut through the air like thunder, heavy, precise. The drone swerved, its shield flaring. The arrow struck the shield with a violent spark. The drone spun from the impact but did not fall. Its shield flickered but held. Gasps erupted. The cadets leaned forward. The instructor smirked faintly. "See, your tricks are ending," he said, but his voice wavered. The human did not stop. He pulled another strip of metal from the ground, sharper this time. He carved it quickly, sweat on his brow, yet his movement stayed precise. He worked as if failure was impossible. The drone darted again, firing another shot. The floor cracked beside him, but he moved, rolling and standing, his hands never stopping. Within seconds he had shaped another arrow, heavier and jagged. The cadets whispered louder now. "He adapts again. How does he do it so fast? This is not normal." The human drew the string once more. The bow groaned, his arms trembled slightly under the pressure, his eyes locked with the drone.
The drone shifted, its cannons glowed, preparing a double strike. The room buzzed with deadly energy. The human released. The arrow shot forward, jagged and heavy. The drone fired at the same moment. Twin energy bolts tore across the room, but the arrow reached first, smashing into the shield. The blue light flared bright, then cracked apart like glass. The arrow pierced through the armor, striking the drone's core. A deafening explosion shook the hall. Flames and sparks rained down, fragments scattered. The drone fell in burning pieces. The cadets shielded their faces. The room shook with impact. When the smoke cleared, the human stood in the center, his bow lowered, his face calm, his breathing steady. The cadets were silent, their earlier laughter gone, their eyes filled with awe and fear. Whispers rose slowly. He did it again. He destroyed the advanced drone, with nothing but junk. The instructor's claws dug into the floor, his smirk gone, his eyes burning with something between rage and fear. He hissed, "Enough." But his voice carried no weight now. The human looked at him calmly, his silence pressing against every corner of the hall. It was not arrogance, it was not pride, it was a reminder that humans were not weak, a reminder that humans turned anything into weapons, a reminder that even without technology, even without power, humans were dangerous, and the cadets realized something that shook them deeply. If this human could destroy Academy drones with only desks and chairs, what could humans do when they entered the battlefield of the stars? The bow in his hands was silent, but to every cadet watching, it roared louder than any plasma cannon. The Academy Hall was silent. Smoke from the destroyed advanced drone drifted through the air. Broken pieces of metal glowed faintly on the floor. The human stood in the center, his bow resting. In his hand, calm as ever. The cadets sat frozen, some with wide eyes, others whispering in disbelief. Moments ago, they had mocked him, laughed at his toy. Now their voices trembled with awe and fear. He destroyed the advanced drone, one whispered, with wood and wire. Another added, that should not be possible. The instructor's scaled face twisted in anger, his pride burning, his claws dug into the floor. He had wanted to humiliate the human, but instead he had given him the stage, and now every cadet looked at the human with respect. Again, the instructor barked, his voice trembling with frustration. He would not let this end. Release the Predator drone. Gasps filled the hall. Predator drones were not training tools. They were used in combat simulations. Their purpose was simple: hunt, track, and destroy. They were fast, merciless, designed to outthink their targets. The control panel lit up, the hum grew louder, and then the Predator drone rose, taller than the human, its body sleek with dark armor, its glowing red eyes scanning the room, blades extended from its arms, and its plasma core pulsed like a heartbeat. The cadets shifted nervously, fear spreading among them. This is too much, one hissed. He cannot fight that, another whispered. But still they leaned forward, unable to look away. The human looked at the drone, his face calm, his breathing steady. He did not argue, he did not complain. He only crouched and picked up another piece of broken furniture, this time a long shard of steel pipe. His fingers worked quickly, shaping it against the ground, sparks flying as he carved the edge into a deadly point. The avian cadet whispered, feathers trembling, "He is not afraid." The insectoid clicked its mandibles nervously. "No, he is planning," the stone-skinned cadet rumbled, "and that is worse." The Predator drone's red eyes locked on him. It moved with terrifying speed, zigzagging across the room, its blades cutting the air with sharp metallic screeches. The sound made cadets flinch. The instructor sneered, though his voice carried unease. "Let us see if your sticks can match this," he hissed. The human tied the steel shard to a shaft, wrapping it tight with wire. His bow creaked as he tested the string. He crouched lower, his eyes tracking the Predator drone. The drone fired suddenly. A burst of plasma cut across the hall. The heat seared the air. The human rolled aside, dust and sparks rising. He came up to his feet smoothly. Bowstring pulled back. The arrow aimed at the Predator's glowing core. He released. The arrow shot forward like a storm. The Predator twisted, blades crossing, sparks exploded as the arrow struck. The armor bent but held. The drone kept moving, faster, deadlier. Gasps echoed across the hall. The cadets clutched their seats. "It blocked it," one whispered. The human's face did not change. He crouched again, grabbing another piece of debris, this time a jagged metal panel. His hands moved quickly, his focus unbroken. He shaped it into a heavy arrowhead, his silence louder than the drone's roar. The Predator lunged, blades slicing through the air. The human rolled again, the blades cutting into the floor where he had stood. Sparks showered across the room. The cadets flinched. The avian let out a sharp cry. "He will be killed." But the human rose again, bowstring drawn, muscles straining, his eyes sharp. He released. The arrow smashed against the Predator's arm, shattering one of its blades. The drone screeched mechanically, spinning in fury, its red eyes glowing brighter. The cadets gasped again, whispers spreading. He broke it. He damaged the Predator drone. The instructor's claws dug deeper into the ground, his smirk gone, replaced with a shadow of fear. The Predator drone charged again, plasma cannons glowing. The human grabbed another shard of steel, quickly shaping a thicker, sharper arrow, his hands never stopping. Every second he adapted, every second he grew deadlier. The drone fired. Twin bolts of plasma roared toward him. The human leapt to the side, rolling into cover. Wood splintered. Smoke rose, but he emerged again, bow in hand. He drew the string back with all his strength. The bow creaked, his eyes locked on the predator's glowing core. The cadets held their breath. The drone charged, blades spinning. The human released. The arrow screamed through the air, jagged, heavy, unstoppable. It smashed into the predator's chest. The shield flared, cracked, and shattered. The arrow tore into the plasma core. The explosion shook the entire hall. Flames burst across the room. The predator drone collapsed in a heap of broken metal, smoke and fire spreading around it. The cadets jumped to their feet in shock, their voices a mix of awe and fear. He destroyed the predator drone. No one has ever done that in training. He is not normal. The human stood among the smoke, his bow lowered, his breathing calm, his silence terrifying. The instructor's eyes burned, but for the first time his scales trembled, his voice broke slightly as he muttered, "Enough." But the word carried no power. The cadets looked at the human with new eyes, no longer mocking, no longer dismissive. They looked at him with fear, with respect, with the realization that humans were not weak. And in the back of their minds, one terrifying thought echoed. If a human could destroy a predator drone with nothing but scraps of furniture, what would happen if humans entered the battlefield with true weapons of war? The bow in his hand was no longer just wood and wire. It was a warning, a message, a symbol that humans could turn anything into power. Smoke curled above the ruined predator drone. Its glowing core shattered. Sparks hissed on the floor. The training hall smelled of fire and metal. The cadets sat stiff in their seats, wide-eyed. Their earlier laughter and arrogance burned away. The human stood calm in the center, bow still in hand, his face quiet, his breathing steady, his silence heavier than the smoke in the air. The instructor's claws trembled slightly, his voice low and sharp. "Enough, human, enough." But his tone betrayed unease. The cadets whispered, their voices shaky. "He destroyed everything. No one can do this. How can scraps of furniture defeat Academy drones?" The human raised his eyes and looked at the instructor, his voice calm, clear, carrying across the silent hall. "You wanted to see weapons," he said. "You wanted to measure power." He lifted the crude bow in his hand. "This is enough." His words cut like blades. The cadets froze. The instructor hissed, "That is not a weapon. It is junk. You just had luck." Though his eyes betrayed doubt, the human shook his head slowly. "No, it is not luck," he said. "Humans do not need advanced weapons. Humans do not need plasma or steel. Give us anything, wood, stone, scraps, and we will build." The hall fell even quieter, the cadets leaning forward, his voice carried weight beyond the moment. "We survived on a world that tried to kill us," the human continued, his eyes hard, his voice steady. "We learned to hunt when stronger beasts hunted us. We learned to fight with our hands when we had nothing. We learned to use the world itself as our weapon. That is what it means to be human." Gasps rippled through the room. Alien cadets exchanged uneasy glances. The avian whispered, "He is not boasting. He is telling truth." The insectoid clicked nervously. "This is what makes them dangerous," the stone-skinned cadet muttered. "This is what makes them unstoppable." The instructor's voice cracked as he tried to speak. "You think this proves anything? You think one test changes the galaxy?" The human's calm eyes fixed on him. "It does," he said, his tone quiet but unshakable. "Because it is not about me, it is about all of us. Every human can do this. Every human will find a way, and that is what you should fear." The words struck deeper than any arrow. The cadets shivered. The hall felt colder, as if the air itself understood. The human lifted his bow slightly. "This is not a toy. It is a reminder," he said. "A reminder that humans do not surrender. We adapt. We survive. We create. And when we must, we fight." The silence was so heavy that every cadet felt it in their chest. Their earlier arrogance shattered, respect and fear mixing in their hearts. The avian cadet whispered softly, "They can turn anything into death." The insectoid hissed, "If this is what they do with furniture, what will they do with warships?" The stone-skinned cadet rumbled, If they ever rise, the galaxy will tremble. The instructor's claws tapped nervously against the floor, his smirk gone, his pride crushed, his mind racing with fear. He had wanted to show weakness, but instead he had revealed a truth the galaxy was not ready to hear. The human lowered his bow, his voice steady as stone. Weapons are not what make humans dangerous. It is imagination, it is will, it is the refusal to give up. The cadets shifted uneasily, the truth echoing in their minds. They realized they were not watching a student anymore. They were witnessing a warning, a glimpse into something the galaxy had long underestimated. The instructor tried to regain control, his voice loud but hollow. "Class dismissed," he barked, but no one moved. Every cadet's eyes still fixed on the human, their fear too strong, their thoughts too heavy. The human turned slowly and walked toward his seat, every step silent, every step heavy. He did not smile. He did not gloat. His silence was more terrifying than any shout, and as he passed, the cadets shifted away instinctively, giving him space, not out of respect, but out of something far deeper. Fear. The instructor watched him go, his chest tight, his scales prickling. He whispered under his breath, "If this is what humans are with scraps, then with real weapons, we are doomed." The cadets looked at one another. None dared laugh, none dared whisper jokes anymore. They all knew the truth now. The test had ended, but a lesson had begun, and that lesson would spread far beyond the walls of the academy, a whisper moving from cadet to cadet, from world to world, a whisper that said, "Never underestimate a human." The hall still smelled of smoke and fire. Broken pieces of drones scattered across the floor like the remains of fallen beasts. The silence was crushing. Every cadet sat frozen in their seats, their eyes locked on the human who now walked back to his chair, bow still in hand. The instructor's scaled body trembled. His claws scraped against the floor. He had lost control of the class. Worse, he had revealed something he never wanted to face, the truth about humanity. The cadets whispered in hushed tones, their voices carrying fear instead of laughter. "He destroyed them all," one muttered. "With nothing but scraps," another added. "No one else could do that." The human lowered himself into his chair, his bow resting across his knees. He sat quietly. No boasting, no smile, only silence. And that silence was heavier than any words. The instructor finally forced his voice to rise, though it cracked at the edges. "Enough, class dismissed," he barked, but the command sounded hollow, empty. The cadets did not move at first. They sat staring, their fear holding them still. Slowly, one by one, they began to leave, but not as before. No longer mocking, no longer bold. They left quietly, casting glances at the human, their expressions filled with caution and unease. The avian cadet leaned toward another, whispering, "If humans can do this with junk, what will they do with real weapons?" The insectoid clicked nervously. "If they are ever pushed, the galaxy will bleed." The stone-skinned cadet rumbled low. "They are the most dangerous of us all." The whispers spread, small at first, but growing, like sparks carried on the wind. Each cadet carried the story as they left, each one knowing they had witnessed something the galaxy had long ignored. The instructor remained frozen, his pride shattered, his mind racing. He stared at the human with something he had never felt before. Not anger, not hatred, but fear. The human finally looked up, his calm eyes meeting the instructor's. No word spoken, yet the message was clear. Humans were not weak. Humans were not helpless. Humans were not prey. The instructor's scales prickled, his throat dry. He whispered softly under his breath, words not meant for anyone to hear. "Never underestimate a human." But the cadets heard, and the whisper became truth. The human rose again, walking slowly out of the hall, his bow still in hand. Every step echoed like thunder. Every cadet shifted aside, giving him space. They watched him leave with wide eyes, none daring to stop him, none daring to speak. When the doors closed behind him, the hall erupted with whispers, fear mixing with awe. He could make a weapon from nothing. He destroyed the Predator drone. This is not training, this is survival. The story spread quickly beyond the hall, moving through the academy corridors, reaching other students, instructors, and eventually higher ranks. Each telling carried more weight, more fear, they say. At a human faced drones armed with plasma and blades, and he destroyed them with furniture. They said he turned trash into death. They said he proved humans were more dangerous with nothing than most,